Show. We've been trying to get hold of you all morning. I see all things up and running as far as you're concerned. All smiles, bushy-eyed and everything with you, yeah?
Well, good morning, Tabisa, and welcome to the IEC Centre here at Belleville in the Western Cape, where we'll be bringing you all the election updates and news happening across the province. The province comprises of a municipal metro 1, 5 district municipalities and 24 local municipalities, and we've distributed reporters all across the province to have a look at what's going on the ground and bring us all the news as it happens. One of the municipalities that we are at here in the Western Cape this morning is the Cape Winelands district, in which the Doorns in the Hex River Valley forms part of. Now, more than a year after the violent farm workers strike in the Western Cape, life seems to have returned to normal at the Doorns. The town in the Cape Winelands district was the epicenter of protracted protests that left 3 people dead and hundreds of millions of rands in damage. Workers were demanding a minimum wage of 150 rand per day, up from 69 rand. Following earnest talks, a new sectoral determination was set in place in February last year of 105 rand per day. Whilst it's unthinkable that 2 decades ago, farm workers could endeavour to fight for better wages, 20 years on, for many life is still a battle. Our reporter Mariska Botha is at the Doorns. She's been there for a few days looking at what's happening in that part of the country to also give us an update on what's happening with the lives of the farm workers and everybody at the Doorns. But before we go to Mariska, though, let's take a look at an insert she's compiled for us from the Doorns.
The Hex River Valley is world-renowned for its export grapes. Annually, over 15 million cartons leave the Doorns for Europe and the Far East, among others. Around 30,000 people are employed permanently, while another 40,000 people are employed as seasonal workers. 53-year-old Jan Jonker has been a farm worker since he was a boy of 16. He's had a tough life and admits he had several clashes with the law. But now he leads a quiet life and no longer works. Jonker says very little has changed in the past 20 years and many workers still struggle.
Kyk, ons kry omtrent niks uit aan die einde van die dag nie. Want alles gaan na die baas se kant toe. En het baas ook ons praat, dit is maar net, gaat het regmaken, het komt nooit zo reg nie. En het blijft maar net waar het is, tot toen nog een dag toen nog zo was.
Friends Elizabeth Lambert and Sarah Alexander says democracy has meant little for them. Lambert has been on a waiting list for a house for nearly 2 decades and says she won't vote.
Hulle kan nie vir jou werk gee nie. Hulle kom met klomp belofte na jou toe, maar na die stem, maar sien jy niemand nie. Maar saak niks aan die belofte wat hulle doen nie.
Many share the two women's sentiment, but others say things have definitely changed for the better.
Nee, ek gaan stem. En dan, dat is baie wat ek al gesien het dat gebeur het van die tijd af tot nou toe. Dus hoekom ek weer gaan stem vir die ANC. No matter what.
The farm worker strikes catapulted the Doorns into the international spotlight. But now all is quiet. Gerard de Kok, who was involved in talks during the strikes, says good and bad have come from it.
The increase in salaries and in wages have had a very positive effect on the people, increased the living standards of the people, and none of the farmers or the growers have gone bankrupt. So it was all the way affordable for the for all of us. But there's more money for less people. We see the upside. We see the more satisfied workers, but unfortunately there must be a lot of people without work.
Jan Jonker says he will cast a ballot come election day, but he's unsure who will get his precious vote. Mariska Botha, SABC News, the Doorns.
That report from Mariska Botha, who has been at the Doorns for a couple of days now. We cross to Mariska, who is standing by at the Doorns. Mariska, good morning. Give us an idea. Is there much interest in voting as we get closer to Wednesday?
Good morning to you from a very cold Doorns here in the Hicks River Valley. There's been varied feeling among the people. We've spoken to several people, and it's really divided into three parts. Some say they're not going to vote at all. They say promises are made and promises are never kept, and they're not going to vote, they're not going to make the effort. While there are people who say yes, they will vote, but they're unsure who to vote for, citing the same reasons. All the political parties come with promises, and they say they seldom see anything happen from that. And then there's people who are staunch supporters of their parties who say that yes, they're looking forward to Wednesday, they are going to go out and cast their ballot. So it's really varied emotions that we see here, but it seems that there is a little bit more of a voter apathy. Of course, people say that in the run-up, and then on election day they change their minds. So we're waiting in earnest to see what they will do come election day.
A year ago, when the farm workers' protests were going on quite violently, we saw a lot of political parties flocking to the Doorns to try and get support as part of the build-up to elections. Have you seen much action by the political parties in the days that you've been there?
Well, as you know, political parties and all the big leaders from the varying political parties were canvassing heavily in especially Cape Town. In the Doorns, we've seen a little bit less of that, but certainly there has been a lot of political parties making their voices heard, having rallies, speaking to people on the ground, having door-to-door campaigns, and of course buckies and the like with loud hailers going around urging people to vote for them. So yes, definitely there has been some action here in the Doorns in terms of political parties trying to garner as much votes as they can before Wednesday.
Outside of the election mania, though, has life really returned to normal at the Doorns as far as farm workers are concerned? We were addressed from last year, but also for the farm owners who wanted to return to stability. Are things really finally calm and stable at the Doorns?
It certainly seems that way. Before those violent strikes, the Doorns was known as a peaceful valley. It's a very picturesque valley, and of course millions of cartons of table grapes leaves this valley annually. It's an export table grape haven. And when those violent protests broke out, of course, some of these towns around the Doorns, but the Doorns mainly as the epicenter, looked like a small war zone. But here on, it does seem that everything has returned to normal. This morning we've seen several big buckies and trucks moving people to work. I don't know if you can hear them, but there's a truck passing us now with farm workers on their way to work. So it does seem that things have returned to normal, both for the farm owners and the farm workers.
Well, Mariska, thank you very much. Mariska is just one of the reporters we'll be talking to throughout the day. In the meantime, let's go back to Thabiso.